We're going to get started. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. Today's Tips and Tricks webinar, we will be discussing building your surface automatically on point import in Civil 3D. Before we get started, I have a couple of updates. Because this is a public presentation, we will have all mics muted. We do encourage you to ask questions, and we have allocated time for the Q&A at the end of the webinar. If you look at your go-to control panel, you will see a question box and a chat box. Enter any questions you may have during the presentation in either box, and we will answer them at the end. We are ZenTek Consultants, a technology consulting firm providing innovative technology solutions to the Canadian CAD/BIM construction marketplace. Our focus is to improve efficiencies, which in turn leads to increased productivity. We assist our clients with training and services for Autodesk, Bluebeam, BricsCAD, Procore, and a host of our own ZenTek solutions. I'm Steve Fahey, based in Halifax. I manage our Canadian operations, and I invite you to visit our website to learn more about our company and our offerings. Also, don't forget to follow ZenTek Consultants CA on LinkedIn to stay up to date on all of our upcoming webinars. We're pleased to be recognized and vetted by Autodesk to be part of their Autodesk Service Provider Program. We work directly with our clients to gain a firm understanding of their requirements so we can assist them in getting the most out of their technology. If you require help, we offer a free 1-hour consultation. Contact us to learn more. I want to take a second to let you know about our ZenPipe for Civil 3D Pressure Network solution. It comes with a description, fields for all components that will work with your current Civil 3D styles. They are rationally named. It makes the Civil 3D Pressure Network easier to use. To learn more about our ZenPipe solution, please visit our website and watch our demo video. I'm pleased to have Cindy Davenport joining me today. Cindy has an excess of 30 years experience implementing and supporting technology in the CAD/BIM construction field. She has co-authored 3 books on mastering Civil 3D and has been an instructor at Autodesk University. We are very happy to have Cindy and her technical expertise on our team. At this time, I will hand the presentation over to Cindy to show you the Civil 3D webinar.
Okay, I'm just waiting for that magic dialog box to open. I'm going to have to get a new picture because that one looks crazy. I look crazy in that one.
Can't see the Great Danes in the background, so it's good.
Okay, did you make me the presenter? I'm trying to figure it out.
Let me just see here.
We need music. Only thing I could think of is the Wizard of Oz music. Dun, da, 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 dun, dun, da, da.
You should be good now.
Show my screen. Yes, let's do that. Okay, last time I checked, it was this one. Can you see my Civil 3D?
Yes, I can.
Well, that's good. Okay, so first of all, I want to ask for people's forgiveness because I am from Virginia and I am using a file that's in feet and inches. No, just feet. I should have grabbed a metric file, but I didn't think about it until just now when I heard him describing Canada and everything.
That's all right. We still buy 2x4s in Canada.
Okay. All right. So anyway, so the name of this presentation is Build Your Existing Surface Automatically on Point Import. But you know, all things in Civil 3D are possible with a really good solid template. So what I'm going to do is show you some things you can do in your template just to give it some extra oomph. And it's all centered around point import and ultimately creating a surface automatically. All right, so this particular setup I have right here, this file was created from template, and it was created from a template. The purpose of the template was to bring in points based on some field standards. All right, so let me show you some things that I have set up. You come over to the settings tab here, and you come over to description keys. I have this one here that I've set up based on the field standards. I'm going to edit it, just show you what description keys are all about, just in case you don't know yet. Okay, so description keys are built on a code list, and typically this is a code list that is used in the field by the surveyor, right? So you might notice that in this case, we're using numeric codes. So those have all been configured into the template. For each code, a style is associated, and a style enables you to control visibility of your point. Traditionally, we show points with X's or plus signs, whatever the standard might be, but we don't have to do that in Civil 3D. We can make the point the symbol. We can use a block to define that point marker. And so that's how this is set up. So tree codes are bringing in tree blocks, as you can see here. Also, what's associated with each code is a point label style. So the point label styles that I've set up via this description key set will display annotation that I want to see when I'm ready to plot my plan. That's what it does. Okay, now I can always go back, and I'll show you how to do this. I can always go back and show the traditional point annotation with the point number, the elevation, and the description. I can quickly do that with some things I have set up here. But basically, this is the way I want my points formatted. I want them ready to go. This is also known as field to finish setup. The next column, it's called the format column, but it's also known as the full description column. So with this column, what you can do is configure alternate descriptions. All right, so very, very helpful when you have a numeric codes, because people in the field know what these numeric codes represent, but people in the office may not be as well informed. So this helps the people in the office, and plus it helps with your annotation, because we're going to pull this formatting, this alternate code into our annotation for when we're ready to plot our plans. Also, depending on the code, we can configure that point to go on a certain layer, which layers do great in configuring color and line type. A lot of, that's what we use to control the way things plot, the way things display. So that's very handy. Now there's this philosophy in Civil 3D. One is by style, the other is by point. You got to configure by style and use styles to control. You got to configure by layer. I like to use both, because there's sometimes it's appropriate and easier to control visibility through the layers. And then sometimes it's appropriate and easier to control visibility as far as what things are on and off. And if I want to change their properties and all that, sometimes it's easier to do it through style. So I like the option of going in either direction. So that's how I'm set up here. Now we also have the ability to associate a parameter collected in the field to scale the symbol ultimately. Like a lot of times that's used with trees. And as you can see here, here's the parameter. It wants to be populated here, but a parameter can be configured to pick up the drip line. So you can scale the drip line up for the trees. So basically, you can, when I show this data set to people, they're like, how come they have a point for different size trees? Well, that's just the way that these guys set themselves up, but you can just configure one line for every tree and then, have the parameter control the scaling of that. But anyway, let's move on. All right, enough with description keys. What we're going to do is we're going to jump over to my survey tab here. And I want to show you something else, figure prefix database. So what figure prefixes do is they will help you generate line work. So certain codes from your description keys, certain codes from the field, they're going to trigger line work if you set up your figure prefix database properly. So you see that I have all those numeric codes in here that represent lines. I can configure this column if I want it to be a break line. Now, break lines are very important. They show edges and ridges and creases, let's say, in your surface. All right, and what that does is it aligns all your triangles so that those edges are created along your triangles. So those definitions for break lines are very, very important. And you can do that here. As you see, I've done that. All right. Lot lines, if you have that sort of thing going on with your surveying, you can configure certain codes to create lot lines. But any line work generated is going to go on a layer that is configured here. And then I can assign a style if I want to override any properties of the line work. And I haven't done that here because I haven't found the need to override any line work properties for this data set. So, and of course, all figures go into a site. And this is the site name. The next place I want to take you is to the Prospector tab. Show you what I have set up there. I have a point group set up here. Well, I have several actually. You know, we have the good old all points point group, which catches all of the points that you import into a drawing or create for that matter. I have a couple of other all points point group. One is this one, all points no show. And the way that that's configured is just doesn't show anything. Okay, and when you're working with description keys override anything that point groups are doing. So to enable to get this to work for you, you're going to want to come over up to the overrides tab here and check these boxes. And these boxes checked will overwrite the description keys, but only when you tell it to. And I'll show you how to do that if you don't know. All right, so this is for turning all your points off. And sometimes you want to turn all your points off really quickly using this method, because maybe you want to look at your line work and make sure things are connected up right, and you know, you have all your points on, sometimes things are overlapping and it's hard to see. But this can quickly be applied to all your points, and then it can be unapplied. All right, I also have one called All Points Basic. And what this does is it's set up in the same way, but it's set up to use just some basic standard point styles, an X for the markers, and then a label showing point number, elevation, and description. So then I can turn all of that on for all of my points and panorama my drawing and analyze my points, make sure that I'm understanding what is going on. Incidentally, any all points point group on the include tab has this checkbox ticked. All right, so the biggie here is this one. Well, these are big, but this is the biggie. This is the point of this presentation. I have a point group defined that represents all of my surface points. Since I am using description keys, I can very quickly go ahead and define it and define a point group by coming over to raw description matching. It's listing all of my description keys, and it also lists my full descriptions here. So it's very easy for me to go ahead and find those descriptions representing points on my surface. So you see, I've already done that here. So not all points that a surveyor picks up represents a surface. The only point representing a surface is one that is taken off of a surface. Sometimes a surveyor collects things and that his instrument may not be sitting on the ground. Okay, like for instance, a light pole, it could be sitting up on the pedestal. For a fire hydrant, it could be sitting right on top of the fire hydrant. For a building corner, it could be up on the cornice. Or even for like manholes, the manhole could be like recessed in the ground, but it's not a true low point on the side. And so, since that's just a really dense 2-foot diameter low section, you don't really want to include that in your surface. You don't want your contours to go crazy. And even trees, sometimes just to try to get close to the tree, he or she actually puts it on a root. And so that's not a true surface point. So you need to define a point group that will extract or isolate all of your surface points that you want to configure to the surface. And I've done that here. And this has been set up in my template because I'm using a standard set of codes, and I have my description keys configured, and it's made it all very easy for me to do that. Lastly, in my template, I've created a surface here. All right, this surface already has my topo point group in it. Even though I don't have any points in the drawing, I can still do this. Also, if you go to surface properties, the surface properties, I have my surface style configured, but here's something cool. I also have a steep slope analysis configured. That's going to build based on my local standards. These are steep slopes according to my local standards. So yours might be totally different, but this is already built into my surface. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and import my point data. So let's go up to the Insert tab. That's where we do it. We have two options when we're importing point data. It can be points from files. Typically, this is going to be a coordinate file like PENZD, PNEZD, that type of thing. Depending on how your property was surveyed, and depending on how the surveyor hands you the data, you might need to go through this option, import survey data. You definitely need to go through this option if you're doing figures, if you're creating line work from field data. So I'm just going to go through that option. Just pick my my survey database here and create a new one, hitting this button here. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to be pulling in a fieldbook file. And the cool thing about a fieldbook file, well, it has to be a networked type of survey for you to use a fieldbook file. But the cool thing about that is you can actually see after you've imported it how the survey was collected. You know, what points were occupied, what points were backsided, how the angles were turned, and all of that. So anyway, let's just go ahead and do this. Just select the network there, and all these are already set up in advance. I'm going to hit finish, and so it's going to go through, it's going to grind my data here. It's populating a survey database using this method, which actually the drawing will reference the database for its point information, its figure information. All right, so once it's done, I'm going to have to do a zoom extents like so. And you see, this is my survey network. This is what's showing me how it was surveyed, and this is what I think is really cool. But anyway, if I don't want to see that, I can just click on it and delete it. If I want to bring it back, it's coming from the survey database. I just go to my survey database and tell it bring back my network, basically, and it comes back. But here I have all my line work done. All my points are in here. And see, everything looks the way I want them to look once I plot it. And yeah, there's some overlap here, and I'll have to deal with that, but at least the annotation is there. Now, if I wanted to see all of my point data, all I need to do is come over to the prospector here. And I do want to update all my point groups here. So let me right click and update. You might have noticed I already created contours, so my surface is already generated. That was it, basically. The show could be over now, but let me show you some more things. If I wanted to look at all my point data here, I would just go to properties, and I take that all points basic and I push it to the top, like so. And I click OK. And so now it's showing all of the point data. If I wanted to, I could come down here and temporarily assign it a very tiny scale. So all of my text would shrink. And so I can pan through and see what's up. And once I'm done analyzing my point data, I can make the description keys active again by taking that point group and shoving it back to the bottom, and everything that is beautifully annotated and all my symbology comes back. Right. So, you know, the surface is ready. I could come and I can label, I can edit the surface and get all these blank areas out that shouldn't be generating contours, but I can do my steep slope analysis. It's good to go. All I need to do is go to my surface properties here and then come to my analysis tab. And I don't even have to do that. It's already built. I just go to information and I apply my steep slope style and I hit OK. And there. I have a very, very flat surface here, but I do have places where the slope is steep, indicated by the red, and the slope is kind of medium, indicated by the yellow. So that is that. This has been a demonstration of how you can configure some extra oomph into your template to make cool things happen. So, are there any questions?
I do have a couple. So the first one, how would you configure a surface analysis in the template without any point data in the file?
Oh, well, you can't. So you got to create some point data. And, you know, you don't have to import an entire site. You can create basically 3 points. You know, 1 point is a high point, 1 point's a low point. Create a point in the middle. It could just be 2 points. Create a surface with the 2 points. And then you would have something to create a steep slope analysis with.
Okay. Second question, if we do not yet have a description key set available, how would you configure a point group for our existing surface points?
Well, that's all you would do is you would create, when you go to create a new point group, instead of using this, you would come over to this guy here, raw descriptions matching, and then type in your descriptions separated by a column and all the descriptions that would represent your surface point. And that's all you would have to do.
Okay, excellent.
Anything else?
No, that's it for questions. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. And I have our contact information up on the screen there. If you have any questions related to today's webinar or any of the other products or services that we offer, feel free to reach out. You can go to our website, you can call our 1-800 number, or you can send an email. And with that, we're going to end today's webinar, and thank you very much for joining.